Hi, this is Kelly O'Day. I want to walk you through a series of options that we have as Eastman area tree tenders to develop a strategy going forward in 2012. There are 5 topics that I've identified here that be worthwhile to talk about. The current tree canopy in Philadelphia, tree goals and programs within the city. The second item is to talk a little bit about the Tacony, Tacony, Frankford, that is the TTF watershed, and the role that tree tenders plays with TTF. The third item is to discuss the tree request outreach options that Eastman area tree tenders has. Do we want to stay with our current approach, or are there some improvements we could make? Talk about tree pruning and maintenance to see what we might want to do going forward. And then finally, to wrap these up in a sort of a menu selection process for overall Eastman area tree tender strategy that a core team could adopt and pursue this year and coming years. First thing is to take a look at our tree canopy in Philadelphia. This is a map of data provided by the city's Parks and Recreation in a study that they had funded. What it shows is the tree canopy as a percent of area in each of the zip codes. We're in the 19119 zip code, and you can see we're the dark green, and that is the highest category, 34 to 52%. So clearly, Eastman area is in pretty good shape from a tree standpoint. The citywide goal is 30%. Actually, the city right now is at 20%, and the goal is to improve it. Even though we're exceeding the citywide goal, we still need to think about our trees to make sure that we replace trees as they die, and also to identify some areas that we know really have a very low tree canopy and could benefit from the addition of trees. Now, the Philadelphia Parks and Recreation is the lead agency in the city with respect to trees. This is their new webpage, Tree Philly. And if you look at the bottom, which is the area that's highlighted, you'll see that the Parks and Recreation's goal is to plant 15,000 new trees in the city in just the year 2012. That's obviously an ambitious program. Now, they're going after residences, property owners, neighborhood organizations, civic associations, businesses, and others. So they have a wide effort to develop and improve the city's tree cover and tree canopy. We have the chance as Eastman area tree tenders to work closely with Parks and Recreation to help them reach their goal and improve our tree canopy at the same time. Now, to give you an idea of some of the things that Parks and Recreation can do, this is a view of an extensive tree planting that occurred on the 7,000 block of Sprague Street, right by the Sedgwick Station. And this tree planting occurred in October to December of 2011. On the left, we see some of the 23 trees that Philadelphia Parks and Recreation planted. These are new street trees. And on the right, we see the trees planted by SEPTA. So the combination of Parks and Recreation and SEPTA has really completely changed the nature of the 7,000 block of Sprague Street. And I must say, looking forward to the spring to see these nice young trees in full bloom. Now, the second major program is the Pennsylvania Horticulture Society, which is part of the Plant 1 Million initiative. So as tree tenders, we're obviously very familiar with the PHS program, and we'll continue to work with the 2 plantings a year under the PHS program. The key here may be for us to see what we can do to increase our outreach for the PHS program. Now, the third program I want to briefly talk about that you may not be familiar with is the Philadelphia Water Department's Green Stormwater Infrastructure Initiative. The Water Department will be spending over $1 billion in the next several decades to improve tree cover as part of a solution to the city's stormwater runoff problem. There will be literally thousands of new trees planted, and these will be in an engineered way to actually reduce runoff and to improve the quality of runoff prior to going into the streams and sewers in the city. So this is an area where we as tree tenders could help work with the Water Department to get trees developed from a water resource protection standpoint, and then obviously to help in the maintenance and pruning of those trees over time. Now, there was a key theme here related to watersheds. We're in the Tacony-Tacony-Frankford watershed, and this map shows our sister tree tender groups in the watershed. Now, it's clear there are some areas in the watershed that are not currently within a tree tender area. The TTF Watershed Partnership wants to get full tree tender coverage in the watershed. In our case, particularly talking about the Philadelphia portion of the watershed. And they will be holding a meeting in late February to see how they can help the existing tree tender groups and possibly the development of some new groups to enhance our efforts, which have a major watershed benefit, so that we may be able to work with our other tree tender groups to share resources, tools, and so forth. And this is a pretty exciting initiative to work with the Watershed Association and the other tree tender groups to see what we can do to improve things in our watershed. Now, I'd like to shift gears just a little bit and talk about the tree request outreach options that East Mountain Area Tree Tenders and other tree tender groups in the area have. We could easily continue our current word-of-mouth approach. It has been successful, and there have been a number of really large plantings because of our word-of-mouth approach. On the other hand, we could, through emails, notices, news outlets, contacts, enhance it to make sure that even a wider audience of homeowners is aware of the opportunities for plantings in the spring and fall. In addition, we could expand the outreach to contact churches, apartments, and institutions to either apply for a tree tender planted tree or possibly a Parks and Recreation tree or even a Philadelphia Water Department stormwater facility. And in that case, we may be able to combine that with targeting potential tree enhancement areas. What this is trying to develop as a group a priority of those areas where we believe it would be really in the neighborhood's best interest to have the concerted effort to develop more trees, both through PHS, Parks and Recreation, and the Water Department, among others. Now, let me show you an example I worked my way through of how we could do a targeted approach. This is an infrared map it actually is a statewide map, and I've zoomed into the Philadelphia area. It's in infrared, and you can see the link there if you'd like to look at it yourself. And what's unique about this is that it shows live trees. They show up as red in this particular photo. So you can see in the upper left, the Wissahickon Watershed Valley shows up quite clearly in red with the high tree cover. Now, this is a zoomed-in version, and this is right in our neighborhood, and this is Stenton Avenue going from lower left to upper right. And if you notice that large brown tract in the middle, that's actually at Gowan. And there is a church on that corner at Stenton and Gowan, and you can see clearly in this picture that there is a lot of land area with very few trees. So we'll zoom in even a little further, and you can now see quite clearly that there's essentially close to a city block that is really short of trees, and it would be a potential opportunity to add trees. Now this is a Google Map street view of that same piece of land at Stenton and Gowan. You can see the church, you can see a couple of trees in the property, but clearly along the street, along Stenton Avenue, there's essentially no trees in that city block. Here's a closer up view again, so that with both the infrared map and with Google Map, we can see an area that really could benefit from new trees. Now, what I think is important with this example is that we can continue to concentrate and should continue to concentrate on homeowners, but in addition to homeowners, there are places like churches, apartment complexes, commercial strips that also could benefit from additional tree cover. So we may want to identify some target areas like this example, contact the property owners, and work with them to see what can be done to improve the tree cover on their property, either through a PHS tree tender planting or a planting with the City Parks and Recreation or with even the Philadelphia Water Department. Now, one of the things that we as tree tenders obviously have a priority for planting new trees, but we also need to be concerned about the effective pruning and maintenance of trees that we've planted or that others have planted recently, and in fact, even identifying other trees that might need maintenance. This maintenance can be done by Parks and Recreation if it's a street tree. So if we begin to think of ourselves as advocates of trees, we want to take a look at our tree pruning and maintenance activities and see what we can do to enhance that part of our role. Now, I've put together this list of menu sort of choice of options we have as we think about developing the East Mountain Area Tree Tenders strategy. And the first question for us is, what do we view our mission to be? And that's an important thing, is what do we want to do? We can't take on more, or we should not take on more than we can get done. On the other hand, there may be some additional things that we want to do. So to me, it makes sense we're going to continue our 2 PHS plantings per year. Can we take on tree pruning and maintenance as an activity? Can we become advocates for trees in Northwest Philadelphia? Is it possible we could think about some beautification kinds of activities, such as cleanups at areas that could benefit from some volunteer work? So I think we need to spend some time getting clear what's a practical mission, what do we really want to commit to do, and how do we want to do it. A second topic area for us is the geographic area. Do we want to keep our current area, or do we want to expand it? We could expand it going into Chestnut Hill. We could expand it across Stenton Avenue, or we could, in fact, go south in if we decide we want to expand, or we could expand in all directions. So as we think of expanding, we'll need to reach out to get volunteers in those areas and get members participating in a core team. So as we take on more area, we would definitely need to be able to take on additional resources of people to participate. Next topic area is outreach. And that, by outreach, what that is, to my mind, is as we contact people, inform them of the opportunities for tree plantings, both through PHS, through Parks and Recreation, and Philadelphia Water Department as that program gets underway. Now, we can stick with our current outreach efforts, which have been successful and have worked, or we could expand by an enhanced communication, or in fact, we could also have both enhanced communication and identify some target areas where we really want to focus. So it seems that we really need to think about how we want to go with this, not become overly ambitious, but at the same time maybe reach some additional people and contacts that we would like to pursue. Next on the agenda here is the tree pruning and maintenance, thinking about how we really can get going with a effort in this area to make sure that the trees that we have planted are surviving and are doing well, and if they're not, what steps do we need to take to help these trees along. And then finally, participation in the TTF watershed-wide efforts. Does that make sense to us to sort of talk to the other tree tender groups, begin to think about common interests, maybe sharing some resources, and learning from each other about what's working and not working? So hopefully this list of sort of menu items on a strategy menu can give everybody food for thought as we plan our meeting to get the core team focused and organized and pursuing an agenda for 2012. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you at our meeting. Thank you.